Hey everybody, welcome to WDKX's After Show with Al Parisi. Today's edition has to do with Al. Today you went on a data dump and you're really concerned about where money is going, especially when it comes to kids and food.
Right. Well, and look at it this way, right, Tariq, we talk about it all the time, right? All of these politicians now are coming in here saying that they want to be on school board, right? All of a sudden, school board is a popular thing to be on, right?
Yeah.
And they all say this really broad thing. I'm about the kids. Right?
Yes.
What in the world? Okay, you're about the kids, right? Well, we have a very small population. What do we have? 22,000, 24,000 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a budget of over $1.4 billion, right? So every year, $1.4 billion gets dumped in. And then what comes out? Uneducated kids, right? That's what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So they're spending $1.4 billion. So all these people, I'm about the kids, right? They got to get a lot more real. And I think that's what we need to ask of these board members, right? So things like they're getting rid of DEI. The federal government is saying no more DEI, right? The Rochester City School District must have 50 people who do nothing but DEI, right? They do nothing but those letters, right? And try to make diversity and inclusion an important part of the school curriculum, no matter what they're doing, right? So now the question becomes, if you're running for school board, are you going to dump the DEI if the federal government says you want the $250 million that we give of that $1 billion budget? Do you want that $250 million or do you want DEI? It's one or the other, right? Because these Trump people are coming down and it's vicious.
All right, so
and people need to, if you're an elected official, you're running for school board, you have to be able to answer that question.
Well, the main part about why you're saying this, and I think is interesting, is we had two parts this morning. You were really concerned about not only this, but you were concerned about blackmail. Is this a form of public blackmail? Because we all know if you keep the DEI hires, it will result in a cut of funding, which will also get back to people who are upset with you because they see you as cutting the funding, not at it coming at the federal level and down to the people of Rochester. Or do you say, no, we need to cut individuals in order to keep the funding so we can keep the ship sailing because young people need food? So this is not an easy blackmail. This is a public blackmail that politicians are dealing with right now.
Absolutely. And they need to step up and answer the real questions, because both on the Democratic and the Republican side, people now are fed up, right? They're saying we've been paying $1.4 billion and our kids aren't coming out any better educated. What's going wrong? Where's the money?
Good question.
And the terrible thing is they're just bringing a hatchet to it. You know what I mean? That's what the Trump administration is basically saying, bust it up, right? Elon Musk is busting it up saying, look, guess what? Rather than $1.4 billion, now you only have $1 billion, right? So what I'm saying to you is local politicians have to understand the gravy train is over. And we talked about it. We said, you're on the transportation committee, right? And you get to bring 50 million, 100 million for a study on high speed rail, right? And you just learned today in the newspaper that they're going to cut meals to Rochester City school children. They're going to cut the lunch program
with a large impoverished community when it comes to child poverty.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they're going to cut that program. And the question is, can you stand up and say, well, hold on here a second. Priorities. I don't have an endless checkbook, right? Do I take that money that I had for transportation and do I give that $50 million to make sure that these kids in our community get lunch, right? But what you said to me is right. Every politician in the world will say, well, Tariq, Al, it doesn't quite work that way.
It's earmarked. For those that may not know, some of that money has already been pushed towards this said program. So even if there is a cut to funding, it wherever that money was supposed to go, whether it be a train or whether it be a plane or whether it be for whatever, it cannot be reallocated towards whatever this need is, which would be food for kids.
Right. And that's what they claim. And the American taxpayer, the New York State taxpayer, right, doesn't want to hear that anymore. They want to hear that their money is being put to the best use.
Yeah.
Right. They want to hear that if there's a choice between high-speed rail studies and feeding inner city kids a meal that they may not get.
Yeah.
We rather feed the kids. And what I'm saying to you is, I think across government now, they can't just operate with blinders on any longer. They can't operate like New York State's budget is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow, or the city of Rochester's budget is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. They need to really look at it. They need to sharpen their pencils, and they have to say, the administrative building at the city of Rochester's school district, right? I assume it has hundreds of workers, right? And the question is, could they do with half of those administrators and still run the school district? If tomorrow I went in and cut half those jobs, could they still run the school district just as bad as they're running it right now?
That's an interesting question now, because this is a no-win situation. If I cut individuals for DEI, I am now taking resources away from people who need these resources. And if I don't cut them, I'm not going to have the resources or the money to supply what we have existing right now. It's almost like you live in not you, Al, but everybody lives in this. This is the political world. This is the business world. And then there's the real world.
Right.
There is what people deal with on a day-to-day basis when it comes to food. Obviously, that's the number one priority, making sure people eat. But it's also a priority for a number of people to see the business level of it. We can't survive unless we cut this, and this. Right. Well, this, and this involves people.
Right.
And people are not easily cut because that affects our world that we live in. So it will have lasting effects both immediately and long term. So this is not an easy decision here.
No, but our politicians typically stick their head in the sand and want to make believe it's not going on. Right now, people say to me, well, with the Department of Education, he's going to slash that. You know what's going to hurt? Kids in the inner city, because anybody who has an individual learning plan will be affected, because those dollars, those federal dollars, go to those individual learning plans and helping kids who need a boost up in education. Well, now you, Mr. I want to run for the school board. Now that you know that you're not going to have those dollars, what's your plan?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So now that they're putting a hatchet to it, the local people, they say, oh, we want to give it back to the states. These states people, right? These state school board people, right, have been juggling on $1.4 billion, right, with bad results. What makes you think that putting it back on them, it's going to get any better? So I think we need a new breed of politician.
Well,
we need someone who's not going to just bury their head in the sand.
I agree with the accountability end of it. Where does the money go and the dollars go, and what are the results from it, and how do we sort of change that plan? What I have a concern about is when from the federal level, it comes down and you don't give people the alternatives to what your plan is. So if you want to destroy it, I'm down with that. I'm interested in it. Tell me after you destroy it, how we plan to build it back up again to make it more structurally efficient. If you can't tell me that now, then I can't really co-sign with you destroying everything, because destroying everything sounds great, but until there is kind of, well, this is what we planned on doing, this is what we're going to do, when people don't have a leadership plan for what's going to happen next year or the year after that or the year after that. I don't mind building from scratch if I know the house is going to be on great foundation for years to come. So tearing it down, I get if it's not working, but what's the plan to rebuild it? And nobody has that.
No, and it's going to fall in the local legislators' laps to come up with that plan, which is why when we go through these elections, I want to be in school board. It's no longer enough to say it's about the kids. Well, okay, great. What's your plan when they do away with funding the individual learning plans for kids in the city of Rochester? Where are you going to get that money from? Where are you going to take that money from where it's presently being spent? How are you going to do things differently? We need those answers, because we can't just elect these same people who've given us a broken system.
All right, so then I have a plan. Here is my plan, but it doesn't align with the federal dollars, so that we go back to the blackmail thing. If I don't do it your way, you don't get this funds. But if I do it my way, which I feel is a better plan, you're not doing it the same way we structured the money to be used for, then you're going to be held accountable for it. Then you're not going to be able to get the funding you need. So it's back to the blackmail thing. What do you do where you do nothing, it affects the people. You do something, it affects the people. and then you still have to deal with the outcome of it affecting the people.
Right. And I think that's exactly right. And all I'm saying is our politicians, right? We need now to elect people who can realize what's going on the federal level, how it's going to affect our city, and what are we going to do? What it comes down to, Tariq, is just like in your family. What are our top priorities?
Yeah.
Are our top priorities making sure those kids get breakfast and lunch every day?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We can accomplish that if that's our top priorities. Is it going to cost us something? Are we going to have to take money out of something else?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
Absolutely,
so that's what it comes down to. Just like in our families every day, these local government people are going to have to make those decisions. And that's what, we really got to think once, twice, three times. And they have to be able to answer the question. Is DEI worth the $250 million?
I don't know. We'll find out. You have to talk to the candidates and get more information from them. Make sure you tune in for the next edition of the after show here on 103.9 WDKX, and go to WDKX's app, WDKX.com, for a number of different stories and topics. And stay tuned on the podcast. We are 103.9 WDKX.